Welcome to another program of Conference Happenings with Debbie. Today I want to introduce you to a couple of the new directors that we have in our office. You may know them from being here at Camp Meeting, or you may know them because you were members of their churches. But I would like you to know who's in the office so that if you see us on campus during this week, please make sure you say hi and welcome them to a different part of their ministry. Ranald, I'm going to ask you first. Ranald, where have you served and how long have you served in this conference?
Well, actually, I've had the privilege of serving in the Alberta Conference for 23 years. 23? This year. Yeah. That's quite a while.
Yeah.
And I started in Calgary with the Calgary Bridgeland and the Calgary Southside churches. And then I was relieved of the Calgary Southside. Someone else took on that responsibility. And I served as the pastor of the Calgary Spanish Church.
Oh.
So after Calgary Bridgeland, Calgary Southside, then I had Calgary Bridgeland and Calgary Spanish.
Do you speak Spanish?
Yes, I do.
Well, then you're perfect. So where did you go from there?
And from there, I went to Edmonton, and I had the privilege of serving the West Edmonton SDA and the African Fellowship. Okay.
And from there, you came into the office?
From there, yes.
Okay, so you've been in the office for 7 months.
Yes.
7 months.
A newbie.
You're a newbie, yes. We like newbies too because then we train them. So what is your position there?
I am Sabbath School and Personal Ministries Director.
And do you have goals? Because I know you're new. It's hard to come into the office not knowing exactly what to do in a new position that hasn't been filled for a couple of years.
Yes.
So do you have some goals that you are hoping to achieve?
Definitely. We have a mission, and our mission is to inspire church members to get involved in Sabbath School and Personal Ministries. In some areas, that's dying out.
Yes.
So we want to revive Sabbath School. And especially in Sabbath School, we want to revive the outreach arm of Sabbath School so that we can get the members trained and involved in outreach ministries.
So that's into the community or just in through the church system?
Among themselves and also into the community.
Into the communities.
And personal ministries in some churches, I've spoken to pastors and leaders, and I've discovered that in some churches we don't have personal ministries leadership. So we want to change that and to provide training for personal ministries because it's very important to the Adventist church.
You know, through COVID, I think Sabbath School got left out.
Yes.
You know, you would have the online service, but you might not have the online Sabbath School, even if there was one.
Right. And
not many people came. Have you found it as a challenge because of that?
Yes, the effects of COVID-19 is evident in some churches. There's some big churches, they don't even have the Sabbath School superintendent.
So your mission is to make sure each church, during nominating committee times and stuff, are the ones that get that rolling, and then you will help coach them?
Yes, and actually the conference-wide, we are planning on having a conference church leadership training, and we want to do that annually. So we are going to start the second weekend of April 2025. And from there, we will be doing annual training of our church officers because we want to give them the best tools to succeed at the local church level.
And that sometimes is missing, isn't it?
Yes,
because
evident.
It's easy to say you're now the personal ministries person or you're in Sabbath schools, but they might not know exactly. They haven't had a good person to follow, and they've been in the church a while.
Yes.
So there's lots of new people in the churches. There's lots of people that have never served in a capacity like that. So you're going to have this conference, and do you have a place where it's going to be yet?
So what we have decided to do as a conference leadership, we have decided to do it on a rotating basis. So we would start in the north, in Edmonton, and we bring everybody to Edmonton, and the following year we would go to Calgary. We bring everybody to Calgary. And also we consider the Lacombe area
Right.
as one of the sites that we would have such a conference-wide training.
That's a wonderful mission to have.
Yes.
Now, let's look at the personal ministries portion. Does that include personal ministries, or is that just Sabbath school, or is that everybody?
It's everybody.
Okay.
This is a leadership training for all departments of the church. So we can't get every department in each year's session. So we would be rotating some departments as we go along.
And you probably would have workshops for some of those different groups anyway. During
And
each of them.
also,
Yeah.
on the one-on-one, I am available to come to the churches and to preach, because I've been doing my round.
Yes.
I'll be going to a different church every Sabbath, and I'm available to preach, and I'm available to do Sabbath school or personal ministries training on the local level.
Right
Yes.
in the churches. So
So
make
we
sure.
don't have to wait until
Yes,
April.
oh, absolutely. So make sure that you think about that in your churches. If you think you want to have somebody come in and do some training for some of those divisions or personal ministries, whatever, make sure you give Reynold Ferrari a call. He's always at the office, so you can always get a hold of him. It's pretty easy. I'm going to go to the other director that started in January, and that happens to be you, Tyler. Do you remember that when you came into our office?
Yeah.
Was it hard?
7 months ago.
You know, Tyler, you've been here in our conference for quite some time too. How long have you been here?
It's been just over 20 years.
20 years. So you're not quite as long as Reynold. But where have you been?
I started at Edmonton Central as youth pastor there and part-time in Smoky Lake. From there I went to seminary, and then after that Peace River and Fairview. Then down to the south to Medicine Hat and Brooks. And most recently before the conference was Sylvan Lake and Rocky Mountain House.
And I know that it's been hard for you to move every single time because you've been loved in all of those places. I've heard that, so I know that. So we saw you a little bit more when you were in Sylvan Lake. And of course, I saw you guys all at camp meeting every year, but it took me a long time to get to know some of you, because when they're all spread out, I don't get to know them quite as well. I can talk on the phone, but to see them in person, it's a little bit harder. So you're in the ministerial department.
Yeah, I'm the ministerial director. Another way of saying that is I'm the pastor of the pastors. And so it's my role to care for the pastors of the Alberta Conference.
Well, I know that you can do that in several different ways, but let me ask you about your job first. The portion of the job that I know you have lots of things going on. Like, you are responsible for camp pitch and all the things that happen with the pastors at camp meeting, aren't you?
Yeah, actually we're here at camp right now and organize all the pastors into the various divisions and setting up the benches and the tables and the tents. And we have a good time actually together.
You have a good time, but it takes a lot of work.
It does, but it's good to be together. We feel kind of like the Levites setting up the temple, setting up a place for worship for the people of the Alberta Conference.
That's a good way of thinking of it, for sure. You also have pastor retreats once a year? Besides camp meeting pitch?
Yeah, besides camp meeting, we do once a year in the wintertime here at Foothills Camp again, where all of the pastors come, we get together, talk about issues that pastors are dealing with, give them tools and training to continue on.
And sometimes do bring in speakers from NAD or North American Division or the General Conference or other places, which is always good for the pastors, because sometimes some of them are far flung from the office and they feel like they're kind of out there, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do to nurture pastors?
We have 4 different ministerial groups. We have a Calgary ministerial group, we have an Edmonton ministerial group, we have a Lacombe ministerial group, and then we have a rural and regional, or rural and remote.
So that takes care of the outlying areas that don't belong to one of the other 3 groups.
It's a little tougher for those folks because we have to meet online, they're so far away. But then the times we do get together at our winter retreat and then here at camp meeting are special times for us.
But you do go out and visit them if you want to. You can do that.
Yeah, I travel around the conference to various churches, sometimes installing pastors, introducing them to their congregations.
That's really a big one. isn't it?
It has been recently, because
Yes.
there's been a lot of changes.
Yes.
And so, a lot of churches have new pastors, and pastors have new churches and districts.
And so you go, administration goes, so there's always somebody from the conference that goes when the pastor starts on their first Sabbath?
Yeah, ideally, we like to be there to introduce them and let the church know that we're here, ask any questions, or let them ask any questions they may have of us, and introduce them to their new pastor.
And you also do churches when they become churches, like typically they start with a fellowship group and come up to a company, and when they become a church, you go and install them in the
Yes,
church.
it's called a church organization. So when a
Thank you for
church-
helping me.
So when a church has reached a certain status, reached certain goals, and they've grown to a certain extent, they become an official church.
And you've done a couple of them.
Just one, actually, African Fellowship.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, you're right. White Court Church
White
as well,
Court.
right, when I first started.
Yes.
And then African Fellowship most recently.
Oh, you've forgotten in 7 months. My. You've also, you're in charge of things like the ordination committee. How often would they meet?
So the ordination committee, which is basically mentoring and training of our younger pastors, that meets earlier on in the year.
Okay.
So we try to prepare at least the administrative part before camp meeting. So as you'll see here at camp meeting, we have or have had the ordination service
Yes.
already. So that happens at the beginning of the year. But then throughout the year, there's mentorship happening with our intern pastors.
And intern pastors are ones that
Are not ordained.
are not ordained. They have come back usually from a MAP-MIN or a MDiv or something like that. Not always.
Right. Generally, this is a loose, but roughly a 10-year track for ordination. Sometimes, depending on experience or age, it may be different, but there's some time at undergrad schooling that they take, and there's time in a church, then usually a master's or some other sort of degree, and then more time in a church. And then that, along with the recommendation from the local churches, we look into ordination.
So it's really not just administration saying, okay, this is who we're going to ordain this year. There's a
No,
long follow-up.
It actually starts, I would say, from the grassroots. Like, it starts from the local congregation. We may initiate the question, but it's the local church who makes that recommendation, whether they think the pastor should or should not be ordained at this time.
Another thing that I know you do is when they're looking for pastors for churches. How does that work?
We have a pastoral placement committee,
Okay.
which is myself and the 3 administrators, and we will typically meet with the boards of the church or churches in the district, and then we will ask questions like, what are your pastoral needs? What type of pastor are you needing right now? What strengths are you looking for? And then we'll get recommendations of people, and the administration and myself will maybe throw in some names as well. And then from there, if it's a multiple church district, we'll have 1 elder from each board come and become part of this pastoral placement committee. If it's just 1 church, we'll have 2 elders come. And from there, we pray and we search and we look at resumes and we do interviews, and we try to trust. We trust the Holy Spirit in His leading to find the right pastor.
That sounds like you're very, very busy. I know that Reynold can be busy because he can go out to be in churches every single weekend too, besides what he does in the office. And you're extremely busy because we've had a lot of pastoral changes and pastoral people that are coming. Some of them are not even here yet for camp meeting, but they're hired and they're coming. So there's other things that you do too. I know that, but there's some of the little jobs, the large jobs that you do in the office. And I know you also sing. I said something to him one day, and he brought his guitar to my office, and he made a song up right there. So I know that he's multi-talented, like all of us in the office that does many different roles. But thank you, and I'll come back to you again in a minute. But I want to talk to Nanette.
Hi, Debbie.
In the middle. Now, Nanette is not a director, but Nanette is the associate treasurer. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you been with us? Where did you come from?
Okay, my name is Nanette Bathan Kines. Bathan was my maiden name, is still.
Yes?
Before I came to the conference, I was working outside. Outside the conference, I worked in the outside accounting firms. I worked at the hotel accounting, And then I moved to oil field accounting. I worked in the oil field as well, in their accounting department. And then I worked at the dealership accounting, before I came to the conference.
So you've had a lot of experience.
Yes, apparently,
Yes.
yeah, all different
Apparently.
kinds. And then the conference is another different kind of accounting.
You came in as part of the reception and that kind
Oh,
of thing at the
yes.
very beginning. That was
Yes.
during COVID.
Yeah, that was during COVID. Interestingly, during those times, lots of people are losing their jobs, and I was one of them.
Oh,
I got temporarily laid off in 2020 in March, and during those I was told that they'll hire me back. They did in July, and then I heard that there was an opening at the conference, but it's not accounting. But I prayed about it and I said, Lord, if you'll bring me there, I don't know what's your plan, but I am willing to work for you in whatever ways I can. During that time, the opening was to replace Jenny Nicole. So I started working at the plant giving department and communications, and at the front desk as well.
but you didn't do that very long, because by the time COVID was over and I came back into the office working, and so I didn't know you at all, but you were, I think, in Treasury already.
Yeah, it just took few months, and then they gave me half communications, and then half treasury, and then after a few months, I was working full-time already at the treasury.
And what were you doing?
Oh, I was doing the audit department, so I was auditing the churches, and it was really a blessing because I got the chance to talk to our treasurers. I got the feel of our churches. I was able to talk to our pastors. I was able to know them and understand their needs. So that's why until now, when I talk to them, when I see them, when I email them, when I talk to them over the phone, I believe I have developed a relationship with them.
You have other talents too, and I'm going to go back to what you're doing now, but you have other talents too, because I know you direct a choir.
Yeah.
And people here at Camp Meeting probably have seen you. Did you not take your choir to the North American Division or the GC?
Oh yeah. We went to the General Conference in 2015. We were invited, and we were the only choir representing Canada during that time.
So we have multi-talents in our conference office for sure. You did the auditing for a couple of years, and then you moved up again. What are you doing now?
Hallelujah. Oh, I am the Associate Treasurer of the Alberta Conference now.
So you work closely with Keith Richter,
Yes, my
And-
mentor.
your mentor. I think that's how it's supposed to be, yes.
Hallelujah.
Working your way up. So it keeps you busy.
Yes.
Does it not?
Indeed, yes.
Because
very much.
how does that change from being an auditor?
Oh, it's a drastic change with responsibilities. Because now the responsibility involves auditing as well. So now, while Keith is the overall overseer of everything of the finances of the Alberta Conference, I have to make sure that whatever he oversees, I make sure that it functions really well, that it is done well. So like I oversee about the payroll or accounts payable, receivables. I have to make sure that everything in there is done very well, correctly, even the government requirements as well.
So somebody audits you,
Oh, yes.
and who would that be?
Oh, we have 3 auditors. We are getting audited by we call them the GCAS, which stands for General Conference Auditing Service.
Right.
That's an annual audit. We have an outside auditor as well, and then we get audited by the government.
Oh,
And apart from that, we have the Financial Audit Review Committee.
right, because the executive committee also wants to know how the finances are running
Yes.
and that kind of thing. So you make those reports
Yes.
for them every time the executive committee meets. So this is a group of very individual items of responsibility in our conference, but they all mesh. You know, she talked about all the different things that happen. You do a lot of things that you need to do and have finances for in your department, same with yours. So it all comes down to working together, doesn't it?
Amen.
And we thank you every single one of you for coming into the office and being with us, because I've probably been there, not the longest, but I've been there a few years. And so I've seen changes, and I've seen changes in the departments. And it's really good to have both Reynold Ferrari, Nanette, and Tyler Rosengren. Thank you so much for being with me. Was this hard? No, okay.
Just a conversation.
It's just a conversation, and it's one that I hope that you will listen to and think about, because if you have any questions, you're welcome to call each one of them and ask what your question might be, and you're also now a little bit more informed about each of these three people. Thank you for being with us today.